Hello, everyone. Hope you're doing well. Today I'm going to continue my series on science fiction movies, and today I'm going to talk about the classic from 1954, Them, which was put out by Warner Brothers and directed by Gordon Douglas. James Whitmore was the star of the film, also Edmund Gwenn and James Arnaz, who we saw in The Thing from Another World, also in this film. As you can tell from the cover here, the real star of this movie are the ants. And this movie imagines giant ants taking over Los Angeles. So, great poster art here. And you can't really see what they're saying on these bubbles, but one person is saying, "You kill one and two take its place." So what is this film about? Well, it starts out as kind of a desert science fiction film where it's discovered that strange things are happening in the desert, specifically with ants. And they discover in no time that the there are giant ants running amok in the desert, and this is near where the first you guessed it, atomic weapons were detonated, and as the scientists in the film quickly theorizes that it was a result of the atomic blast that has led to a mutation with the ants, as Dr. Harold Medford says, and they realize that these new mutations of ants are spreading and that they pose a grave threat to national security, I guess you could say. And eventually they realize the ants have set up some colonies in Los Angeles. Okay, and that's where the climax of the movie takes place. And one thing I like about the movie is that there's a lot of great on location filming in the desert, the Mojave Desert in California. And also, the climax is shot on location in Los Angeles near the Los Angeles River. So there's a really kind of on the ground feel to the science fiction movie. It doesn't feel artificial like that or anything. The movie and the overall tone of this movie, it's more of a procedural tone where James Whitmore is a police officer, and we're mainly following law enforcement as they work with the scientists to get to the bottom of what's going on with the ants. And there's a great opening sequence. The film uses children as well, where there's a terrified little girl who witnessed what the ants could do, and it really begins the movie on this really suspenseful note that's very effective. So it's a procedural tone. Like we don't we actually don't see the ants a lot. When we do, they're very memorable. But I have to think the screen time with the ants can't be more than 5 to 10 minutes. I mean, we see a little bit of them at the start of the movie, and of course, a little bit during the climax. But we always sense the presence of the ants. The use of sound effects is very memorable in this movie. The sounds that the ants make, and I actually learned a new word, strangulation, which is s- yeah, strangulation, which is the sound insects make when they rub their wings together. So, and that's how insects communicate with each other. It's also a very more science-based film than others of this era, where we actually learned a lot about ants. At one point, we're shown a short little documentary about the life cycle of ants and about their reproductive cycle and all that, and which kind of was we see in Jurassic Park, which was done in that film, where we're shown a short film to talk about the cloning of the dinosaurs. So I wonder if that was taken from them. But yeah, we learn a lot about the ants, and the scientist talks about how ants, like humans, make war on each other, and that they have a very highly disciplined and brutal system of living among the ants. And we learn about queens and all that. And another another I think movie that was influenced by them would be Aliens, the James Cameron film from 1986, specifically where we actually see a queen ant laying eggs, okay? Which, if you remember Aliens, there's a big climax of the movie where Ripley confronts the queen alien. And there's also a little scene where the characters have to go into these ducts, kind of these tunnels underneath the city to track down the ant colonies, and we get that felt very much like Alien and Aliens as well. So there's a you can really see the influence of this movie where young people like James Cameron were clearly influenced by this movie. So it's yeah, it's and like I said, it's more of a procedural. It's more where the characters are trying to track down the ants and stop them before everything gets out of hand. And there's a big thing with how cities might react in a crisis like this. The Cold War is even mentioned at many times throughout the film. Not to belabor the metaphor of the ants being communists. I think that would be taking it a bit too far for this film. I kind of read them as more about nature, unleashing the forces of nature and what it can mean for humanity is really what I think what this film is about. But it's really well shot. It's really well directed, and the acting is pretty solid all the way through them. And like I said, it's been a very science fiction movie. So yeah, yeah, and it's very suspenseful right up until the end, right up until the final minutes of the film. As I mentioned, we see James Arnez plays an FBI agent in the film who would later star in Gunsmoke, but he got started with science fiction movies and things like that. So yeah, it's a strong film, I would say, and one of the films about nuclear power and radiation leading to unexpected consequences, which is a huge theme throughout the 1950s. So that's a little bit of analysis and review of them. Thanks for watching, and I will talk to you later. Bye.